In 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed. 14 countries were liberated from the brutally centralized grip of Moscow, each celebrating their newly found independence, trying out free markets and embracing statehood. Except for one country. One Soviet state really didn't want the right to end. When Belarus held a referendum about whether to stay in the Soviet Union, a whopping 84% of Belarusians said yes. So 5 months later, when they were left to be independent, many were sad. Then one man stepped up. "Worry no longer, my fellow Belarusians. The show will go on." Alexander Lukashenko made it his mission to revive the Soviet glory. And he's kept his promise. This was Minsk in 1991, and this was Minsk in 2026. 35 years and zero development. Absolutely goated numbers. When the USSR officially collapsed in December 1991, Belarus entered a transition phase. For the next 3 years, the Belarusian parliament drafted a constitution for the new republic. Then, in 1994, they held their first ever presidential election. Lukashenko, one of the candidates, ran on a strong anti-corruption campaign. And he won a fair democratic election. And what does an aspiring dictator filled with Soviet nostalgia do after winning a fair democratic election? Speedrun the entire democracy and make sure it never happens again. In 1996, just 2 years after being voted president, Lukashenko organized a constitutional referendum. And the topic? Reducing parliamentary power and increasing presidential power. Basically cancelling the foundations of the newly formed Republic of Belarus. And what were the actual outcomes of the referendum? The president's term was made longer. He was given executive power to bypass the parliament. He took control of state media, the only media. He was also given the right to appoint half of constitutional court, including its chair. And the Supreme Soviet, the highest organ of state power in Belarus, was dissolved and replaced by a national assembly in which opposition was pretty much not allowed in. Basically, the entire constitution was rewritten to create a hyper-centralized system with Lukashenko in its center. And every election since has been, well... So then, Lukashenko was consolidated in power. It was time to bring back the Soviet times. First thing, centralize everything, or rather make sure everything stays centralized. While the neighboring Baltic states and other post-Soviet countries opened up their economies, Lukashenko rejected the neoliberal Western BS. Ain't no privatization gonna happen here. Factories, farms, industry, everything was put under state control. But what do they even do in Belarus? What does a landlocked Eastern European neo-Soviet post-communist quasi-market centralized bureaucratic agro-industrial holdover state even produce? Tractors. And Lukashenko loves these tractors. He gave one to Vladimir Putin for his 70th birthday. He loved his tractors so much that during COVID he said, "If you're afraid of the virus, just do some tractor therapy. Tractors will heal everyone." That's an actual quote from Lukashenko. If there's one national symbol for Belarus, it's tractors. The MTZ, Minski Traktarny Zavod, or Minsk Tractor Works, is one of the world's biggest tractor producers. And guess what the name of their flagship model is? It's Belarus. Practically all their models are called Belarus. MTZ was founded in the Soviet Union in 1946, and it still runs the same state-owned production. Even despite the heavy European sanctions on exports, MTC allegedly reached $1 billion in exports in 2023. Talk about Soviet resilience. Was it profitable though? Probably. But doesn't even matter. It's state-owned. In real Soviet fashion, Lukashenko hands out subsidies to keep industries alive, regardless of their profitability. Heavy machinery is one of his pride and joys, and the entire industry is just an extension of the Soviet times. Same factories, same subsidies, same lack of interest in profitability. Subsidies keep workers in factories regardless of whether it makes sense economically. But for the average Belarusian, that's actually good, because Mr. Lukashenko does not like the unemployed. In fact, he hates slacking off so much that in 2015, he enacted the social parasite tax. Anyone who worked less than 183 days in a year was forced to pay a penalty to compensate for the lost tax revenue. So if you lose your job, you pay for it, literally. Lukashenko drives a hard bargain, but that's what's needed to revive Soviet glory. Then, what else do you need to revive Soviet glory? You need a friend in Moscow, and you need to be cripplingly dependent on this friend for practically everything. Belarus is sanctioned by pretty much the entire planet, so Russia is their only lifeline for everything. Russia gives Belarus heavily discounted oil and gas, preferential loans, direct financial subsidies, and most importantly, defense. You can almost think of it this way. Lukashenko's Soviet revival dream is the startup, and the Kremlin is the angel investor. Lukashenko has a dream, he just needs a sponsor for it. And what does Russia get in return for its investment? An obedient puppet state, kind of. Lukashenko's aspirations with Russian integration are confusing, to say the least. He has outright rejected Russian annexation, but has also said that it is our historic mission to make the integration process between Belarus and Russia irreversible. He's also made Russian an official language in Belarus, but then he said if Russia was to annex Belarus, that would result in a war. Which is even more confusing since pretty much their entire defense is a joint operation with Russia. So who would fight who? Make it make sense. But in practice, Lukashenko's actions have made it clear. Belarus rejects everything Western and has exclusively only one strategic partner. Despite the occasional disagreements, Belarus and Russia's coalition cooperation is close, strategic, and strong. It's entirely and exclusively because of this support from the Kremlin that Belarus can continue its Soviet passion project. And speaking of passion, it's not just tractors that Lukashenko loves, but farming in general. Before his political career, Lukashenko was a director of a state farm, and his farmer background is a central aspect of his political persona. While your standard dictator has their cult of personality formed around military prowess and exceptional achievement, Lukashenko's PR is about potatoes. Perhaps the greatest government website of all time is this, an entire section only dedicated to Mr. Lukashenko's vegetable garden. Here's him harvesting potatoes, petting a horse, cutting melons, teaching a friend to use a scythe, and of course, countless references to hard work. How could you not like such a humble man of labor? This PR is well calculated though, because perhaps the most Soviet thing out of all with Belarus is that they kept the notoriously inefficient Soviet system of collective farming. The same-ish system that led to the unprecedented famines in the USSR, and some say led to the collapse of the entire union. 97% of all farmland in Belarus is owned by the state. But as the saying goes, communism works. It just hasn't been implemented well enough. And well, there are no famines, so one could say that it is working. But this too, like the factories, relies heavily on state subsidies, which again suits Lukashenko. This is actually the entire point. Just keep people busy, hard at work. By collectivizing production, whether it's farming, tractors, or any industry, you can keep people employed. And when people are employed, they're less likely to protest. So who cares if the production isn't productive? It already achieves its goal of giving people something to do, or rather, something not to do, which is revolt. Then, by forbidding private enterprise, Lukashenko also prevents the rise of rich business elite that might one day try to oust him from power. This is how he makes sure no one threatens his autocracy. But what if people still try? What if common Belarusians gather in thousands on the streets to demand a regime change? What would Lukashenko do then? He would do this. Because are you even a dictator if in addition to owning the means of production, upholding a curated cult of personality, you don't rule with an iron fist? Of course you're gonna give it to your citizens. Duh. Unfortunately, in 2020, this is exactly what happened. That year, Belarus held another election. Lukashenko swept the floor with his opponents once again. But this time, people got a bit upset about the result. So they took to the streets, and so came to be the largest anti-government demonstrations in the country's history. But what was it about this election that made people so upset? This was the first time ever where before the election it seemed that Lukashenko might actually lose. Opposition candidates had gained significant support online, which got Lukashenko nervous, so he arrested them or banned them from running. And one arrest stood out in particular. This guy, Sergei Tikhanovsky, a popular anti-government YouTuber. Upon strong support from his viewers, Sergei announced on YouTube that he's gonna run for president, and got immediately arrested, imprisoned, and denied from entering the election. So then his wife Svetlana decided to run on his behalf, and she got very popular very fast. She ran with her husband's slogan, "Stop the cockroach," a reference to a Soviet fairy tale about a mustached cockroach who bullied all animals and became their ruler. So Svetlana's supporters rallied behind her in a slipper revolution. If you're thinking, why slippers? That's why. But yeah, election day came, Lukashenko won by a lot. But this time, a lot of people didn't believe it, hence the protests. Common Belarusians erupted to the streets waving the red and white flags, symbolic of opposing the current regime. And Lukashenko tolerated none of this. He sent his security force with stun grenades, rubber bullets, batons, water cannons, and live ammunition like slugs to combat the crowds. And sooner than you know, protesters were jailed, Svetlana was exiled to Lithuania, and Belarus was back under Lukashenko's control. The international community saw this as the death of Belarusian democracy. Lukashenko's response though, everyone has the right to choose. That is democracy. Some chose prison, others chose exile. We never forced anyone out of the country. And when everyone responded, no, you're definitely acting like a dictator, he said this.